So you're gonna notice along this video that it's a little different than some of my other ones. For one, the beginning is gonna be kind of halfway recapping part one. Just so you guys are aware of the lean condition and the fact that this vehicle has separate issues. It has a verified bad fuel pump, and if you guys want to see how I figured that out, I'm gonna leave a link for part one. And I did want to separate them though, because in part one I'm really attacking the poor fuel delivery, causing the lean condition, and then that's what caused, I think that's what caused this the ignition issue. When you run lean, you're gonna short coils out, melt spark plugs, burn valves up, and if you drive the car for years with a check engine light flashing, you're just asking for that, along with engine damage, catalyst damage. The list goes on and on. It's just real bad. When you got a dead misfire like that, it needs to be taken care of immediately. So I hope you guys enjoy, and hopefully I didn't butcher this secondary ignition explanation too bad. I tried my best with what knowledge I have. I'm expanding on that. I'm always wanting to expand on it. So if I butchered something, call me out. Let me know in the comments below. I'm sure there's guys watching this with way more experience than me, and I'm all ears. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy. Welcome back. I think I got an interesting one here. It's like the end of the day, but it's my neighbor's car. Actually, they flagged me down. They got a F-150 here, and it's having some drivability issues. So we're just gonna pull some codes real quick. What I have in here is it just randomly started running rough, I guess. I've never seen this car before. I've never worked on it personally. Okay, so we got a system lean on bank one, and got misfire codes for 3 cylinders. So that sounds about right with what they were talking about. I think that's the only, all right. In the gem, there's a ignition key in circuit error. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. But I mean, what it looks like to me is, I mean, I don't know, maybe an intake leak on that side, or it's running lean. So I wouldn't put it past it. These engines are known for that. So let's see here. Let's go to read the data stream. So I just wanted to see the fuel trims. See if any injectors are throwing some type of I don't think that's a misfire counter. I don't know. Short term on bank one, and then long term on bank one is real bad. So we're pretty lean here. If you want to add the long term and the short term for that bank together, and that we're riding right around 30. So we're lean. We're real lean on that cylinder, or on that bank. So let's get on this test drive and then see what we can see. So I just got back from that test drive, and that thing runs horrible. I think there's a couple issues going on here. For one, I can smell fuel pretty strong. I'm thinking we might have like evap leak somewhere, but also, we got misfires on those 3 cylinders, and I'm just trying to think. They said it went out all at once. So, this particular 4.6 engine, it's got a coil pack on each side of the each bank. So I'm thinking one of them failed. So yeah, I think I'm gonna just get a secondary pattern on the coils to see, if I got some weak spark coming out of them, and then if everything looks good, I'll move on. But this is a quick dirty check just to verify spark. So let's get on that. Alright, so this is that secondary ignition video I was talking about in my last video. So I just pulled up the diagram, and we got 2 ignition coils here. There's one on each side of the engine, and they're not like bank specific. The wires kind of run here and there, you know, from this side of the engine to that side of the engine. We'll get into that in a minute. So this dark blue, light green wire here, if you follow that up, that's going to go over to ignition coil number 1. That's the control, and then like here's for cylinder 2, you're going to have the red, light blue, and it's going to go to ignition coil number 2, and then so on. Same thing with the other side, number 3 and 4, and then anyways, so on. Those, the, you know, the pink wire here, red, pink, white goes to control, red, yellow goes to control. This red, light, green wire right here, it splices in, but you know, if you follow that all the way up, it comes to this fuse number 30, and it's got the PCM power diode on that circuit as well as these radio noise capacitors. You know, I don't know, I could probably, I was looking, you know, I could probably tap into the circuit like on either of these. They're pretty exposed, the noise capacitors, but I'm not going to. I want to do as central of a location as possible. You know, you can see it splices off to all these coils. I don't want to be like right here, you know, or right here. I want somewhere where I can get a good current ramp, you know, that's just kind of neutral. So, you know, somewhere right around this splice point. This is going to be the right rear of the engine compartment. There's just a big bulkhead connector in there, and I think I saw the wire. We're gonna have to maybe cut open the loom a little bit, but I think we can get a good measurement there. So, and you know, I thought about just getting it from this fuse. However, you know, I might try that. That might be the easiest. But there's all this other stuff tied in, you know, like this PCM power diode, and I really wanted something close to the coils, you know, so I can get a nice good measurement. So you can see down there, that's one of the coils I was talking about. And then here we go over to the left side here. There's one that's under this air cleaner here. Got a better view over here. Yeah, so you can see it's like right under there. Looks just like the other one. Okay, so I just got my current clamp. It's the low amp clamp, just hooked up to that control wire, or sorry, the main power feed for these coils, I believe. So, and then I got the secondary hooked up to this number 1 plug wire, and to ground, battery ground. Okay, so you can see we got some there. All right, you guys, I'm sorry for the massive glare. Yeah, I'm just gonna save this capture and then go inside and analyze it. So you can see here on this relative compression test, those jagged peaks. I don't know for certain what causes those, but it's definitely not normal. For the most part, you really just want to see like a nice clean upward slope on those every peak, you know, and you know, anytime you see something like that, it indicates compression loss in that cylinder. I believe, you know, running this vehicle so lean for so long, it's caused some extensive damage. We don't have like complete loss of compression as in like a dead hole, but there's definitely an issue with the cylinder sealing issues. Uh, that would be a whole nother separate diagnostic. Be a good opportunity to use like a pressure sensor in the intake or exhaust, and you could definitely gather some additional data that way. So this is just a long capture of the secondary with the current ramps before I zoom in. So in the next few slides, you're going to see that, and I'll kind of go into more detail as to what exactly we're seeing and what kind of information it gives us. Here we are zoomed in, and you can see one ignition event for each cylinder. This is a Ford multi-strike system, and that's why you're going to see two peaks for each current ramp and two firings on the secondary in rapid succession. And Ford uses this ignition system primarily just for emissions purposes. But that second peak is actually very telling. You can see where I put those arrows, they're lower. So the current ramp itself is actually different as well. That second current ramp, it's not going to look like the first one. It's basically going to exhaust the leftover energy in the coil, and you're going to see a sharp upward edge when I zoom in, and that's what you should see. Let's take a closer look at these secondary ignition patterns. You can see right after the KV line or firing line, that burn line, it doesn't look good. You notice that sharp upward tick, that indicates we're running lean. If you saw part one of this video, that's not going to be a surprise to you. We've already verified a weak fuel pump, but there's a lot more information we can get from these patterns as we zoom in and fluctuate engine speed. You're going to notice a big difference in the secondary ignition. Anytime you have a situation where you're putting that engine under heavy load, it's putting those coils to work. And if they don't have, the ability to create the required energy to properly and efficiently run that engine, you're going to have issues. And this is where you're going to see it. When it comes to diagnostics, this is also where the scope shines. There's no other test that's going to allow you to visually see this electricity in action, if you will. There's definitely other methods for doing this without a scope. However, you're not going to see this kind of detail, and you're not going to get this amount of data so quick. Besides setup, it took me just a couple minutes to save this pattern. Now I'm going to zoom in so we can take a closer look at the hash you see in that pattern. Not only do we have that sharp upward tick indicating a lean condition, there's a massive amount of hash all throughout that pattern. A good way to kind of decipher whether you have an issue in cylinder or outside the cylinder when it comes to the ignition is by just cutting that pattern in half. You can see I put a divider in there, so anything to the left of that is going to be ignition issues being caused outside the cylinder, and anything to the right is going to be in cylinder. With that being said, we got both. So like I said, this vehicle's in rough condition. The suspected secondary issues, they're going to be confirmed to the left, and then the already confirmed lean condition on the right, as well as that turbulence, that really indicates a cylinder sealing issue. As it goes through its 4 strokes, if it's not sealing, there's going to be turbulence because it's sucking air in, it's exhausting air, it's trying to compress air. We've got spark and fuel going in there all at the same time, and if everything's not timed just perfectly, that cylinder is not going to operate properly. And you know, this can be caused many different ways. I didn't film this, but this is the capture where I moved the secondary lead to cylinder number 3. And you can see we have a very different pattern there. In part 1, when I was taking some quick measurements with my U-scope, this is actually the pattern that got me concerned. If you zoom it out, it just looks like a steep downward tick, indicating that you know, the spark is barely reaching across the spark plug gap. And this on this particular cylinder is caused by a whole nother issue on the engine, which I'll get into. The red trace above it is also concerning. You see on that first current ramp, just a steep ramp up, and that's what it should look like. Now on that multi-strike, the second strike, there's also an upward slope. It's not actually a good thing. That second current ramp, it shouldn't look like that. So definitely be careful when you're diagnosing these systems, because when you zoom out, that current ramp compared to the other cylinders is actually much lower, but it actually should have a steep upward angle and then a ramp. The control side of the circuit actually uses that as a current limiting device. So, you know, what you're seeing here is that coil using every bit of energy that it has in it. It is maxing out. The PCM is going to use this current limiting as a way of controlling the amount of amperage, you know, for various load conditions. You know, if you're gunning it, trying to pass somebody, you're really going to be, you know, pushing those coils to the limit. So just sitting here at idle on cylinder number 3, there should be no issue, you know, for that coil and its ability to produce the required amperage. This is just a closer look at that same pattern. You can see the steep downward slope. That, you know, once again, that indicates that spark is not jumping the gap. There's high resistance in that secondary circuit somewhere. When I went to go visually inspect that cylinder, I went to go remove the spark plug wire, and it wasn't even attached to the plug, barely. So bingo, right? Found the issue. There's our high resistance. However, that entire plug well was just full of fuel, and you know, it's just honestly, it's a miracle the car didn't light on fire. The rubber on the boot that goes around the porcelain on the plug was completely expanded and deteriorated. So you can see this is the plug wire for cylinder number 3, and when I went to go remove it, it just disintegrated, or just pulled right off there. It was oil soaked, and you can see it's pretty swollen, and a piece of it appears to be missing. It probably stuck on the plug, a little connector that I can't think of what it's called, but it sits up in there, and you put the wire on and it snaps in place. Well, that's no longer part of this, so that probably explains that pattern we're getting. So that's actually not oil, that is fuel. And I don't know if you guys remember, that might have been in the last video, part 1, right under this, on the test port there, I don't know if I could see it. Oh, there you go, you can see that little gold or brass fitting there. That's the test port. So it's dripping, and it dripped straight into that hole. Cylinder number 4 is right behind it, so I'm gonna guess it dripped in that hole too. This is a pattern taken off of cylinder number 2. I wanted to show you guys, you know, also what, you know, a better one looked like. Definitely a much more clean pattern. You can see that burn line is, you know, much flatter, straight across.
But this is a great example of why it's just so important to test these components under load. This is what I was talking about. When you look at those current ramps, that second ramp, that's what it should look like. So when you're testing these systems, you just be really careful to not make the mistake of thinking you got an issue there. I'm not saying this cylinder is perfect, but that's definitely what it should look like. Let's look at what the cylinder looks like under load now. Once again, testing these things under different conditions is absolutely necessary. You could go wire to wire to wire and see this and say, oh well, we're good. It's just sitting there idling in the shop, and move on to the next cylinder, and you could miss some important data. If you look at that burn line, it's definitely not normal. We definitely have issues there. If you split that in half, once again, we got issues on outside the cylinder, and we got a lot of turbulence in that cylinder. And zooming in even further, this is the worst pattern I've got so far. If you look at that spark line or KV line, it's incredibly low. I really should have been better about getting some cursors on there to show you guys the actual measurements, but on a pattern like this, you really don't need to. It's pretty obvious you got issues there. Overall, this truck is just in pretty rough condition. And unfortunately, this is the kind of stuff that happens when you drive your car into the ground. When that check engine light starts flashing, that means stop the car and go to a mechanic immediately. I really feel like, the extent of damage could have been avoided by regular maintenance. When the system started running lean, the fuel pump got weak. It may have been the issue and the only issue at the time. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a great history with this car, but when you run lean, you put an enormous amount of stress on the ignition system, and you know, in the long run, it'll melt your cat. It'll burn your valves up, or cause other cylinder damage. It's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? The fuel pump or the ignition issue? I'm gonna say the fuel pump. That's my best
Well, hopefully
guess.
you guys watched part one so you could kind of get an idea of what I was talking about. I kept referencing a lean condition. Um, and I think my biggest thing I'd want you to take away from all this is the ability to decipher different issues. I think that's so important in Misfire Diagnostics because, you know, you could have a car roll in and it's runs like crap, like this one, and they've been running it like crap for a long time. You know, a new set of plugs and wires and coils and all that, it sounds great. The client's thinking, oh, well, I'm getting a full tune-up, it's going to run great. But if you don't do your due diligence and verify the issue and verify there's no more issues, then you're not going to have a happy client. And if this is your own car, well, that money's coming out of your pocket. It didn't fix anything. So, you know, um, I really enjoy this type of diagnostics. It's honestly what keeps me going. I can't stand wrenching, uh, heavy line work, and this type of stuff just fascinates me. So hopefully you guys took something away from this, and hopefully this video can excite someone else out there to want to dive deeper. If you don't have a scope, there's a lot of affordable options to get you into it. I was using a hand tech for like a year and a half before I got my Pico, and you'd be surprised with what you could see with any scope. Um, you know, you'd be surprised what you'll find when you dig deeper in any type of diagnostics. Always dig deep. I had a lot of fun making this video. I haven't really done such in-depth diagnostic type videos in the past. It takes forever to edit this stuff. So, um, if you did like it, you took something away from it, hit that like button, subscribe so you can see some upcoming content, and let's hit that 1,000. Thanks for watching.